All right, so buckle up because today we are diving deep into some verses from the Quran, Juz 29 to be exact, and let me tell you, it's like cracking open a treasure chest full of cosmic mysteries.
Oh, I like that. A treasure chest of cosmic mysteries.
Right. This time we're talking about the mysteries of creation itself, like what's it all about? Why are we here? Big questions.
The big questions indeed. And Use 29 definitely tackles them head on.
No kidding. I mean, we're talking about all of the purpose of life, the ultimate fate of everything. Like, where do we even begin?
Well, a good place to start is with the very beginning. Surah al-Mulk, which means dominion, throws us right into the heart of Allah's absolute power.
Okay, so like right off the bat, we're talking about the big guy upstairs.
Exactly. But it's not just saying, hey, he's powerful. It paints this incredible picture using the seven heavens, this perfectly ordered cosmos, a masterpiece pointing directly to a divine architect.
I've always found it kind of mind-blowing when you think about how vast the universe is. Like just looking at the night sky, you get this sense of awe.
Absolutely. And that feeling, that awe, that's exactly what the Fuda uses to illustrate Allah's might. It's like the universe itself becomes evidence.
Whoa, that's deep. Like the universe is its own evidence.
Right. And it reminds me of how other faiths have approached this idea throughout history. Like, think about those breathtaking cathedrals built to mirror the grandeur of the forests around them. They were trying to capture that same sense of awe, that feeling of something larger than themselves.
I never thought about it like that, but it makes total sense. The universe as its own cathedral. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. But Surah Al-Mulk doesn't just talk about the beauty of creation. It also addresses what happens when we reject the Creator.
Okay, so now we're getting to the good stuff. The fire and brimstone.
Well, it definitely doesn't sugarcoat it. The descriptions of hell in these verses, the boiling fire, the rage, the endless suffering, it's pretty intense.
Intense is an understatement. Those verses definitely make you stop and think twice about your life choices.
They're meant to. The imagery is visceral, designed to make you feel the weight of those consequences. Because it's not just about physical pain, it's about the eternal separation from Allah, that utter despair, that emptiness of being totally cut off from His grace. That's hell on a whole other level.
Okay, so we're not talking about some kind of physical fire pit here. This is about something much deeper, a spiritual state of suffering.
Exactly. It's about understanding the deeper meaning behind the fire and brimstone. It's emotional, spiritual, and honestly, I think that makes the message even more powerful because it's something we all have the potential to experience regardless of our beliefs.
So it's less about a physical location and more about a state of being. That's heavy stuff. And then we have the Day of Judgment, which, let's be real, doesn't sound like a walk in the park either.
No, it definitely doesn't. And Surah Al-Haqqa, which means the reality, lays it out pretty clearly. This day is coming, ready or not. It's not a matter of if, but when.
No escaping it. So what can we expect on this Day of Judgment? I mean, paint me a picture here.
Imagine a world where everything we think we know is shattered. The moon is dark, vision is blurred, and the sun and moon are merging together.
Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, like total chaos.
Pretty much. Surah Al-Qiyamah uses these really vivid, almost apocalyptic images to describe the world's end. It's not subtle.
And knowing that everything is coming to an end, it's terrifying, but there's also something kind of beautiful about it too, like a cosmic reset button.
There's a certain awe-inspiring aspect to it, absolutely. But it's not just about the spectacle. Surah Al-Qiyamah also emphasizes the meticulous accounting that takes place on this day. Every action, every word, every fleeting thought we've ever had, it all matters.
It's like we're all walking around with these invisible scorecards, huh?
Exactly. And every choice we make, every action we take, good or bad, it's all being tallied up.
Speaking of tallied up, there's that one verse in Surah Al-Qiyamah that always sends shivers down my spine. That whole image of Allah proportioning fingertips, like what does that even mean?
It's a powerful image, isn't it? It's basically saying that every single detail of our lives, even the things we consider insignificant, are being meticulously measured and accounted for.
It's like this ultimate level of precision. Like if Allah is paying attention to the proportioning of fingertips, then literally nothing escapes His notice.
Exactly. And that's what makes that verse so chilling, but also so profound. It emphasizes the weight of our actions, the importance of living a life that's in line with His will. Because ultimately, we are all accountable for what we do in this life. It's a lot to process, isn't it? This whole idea that every little thing we do matters in the grand scheme of things.
No kidding. It's both humbling and terrifying at the same time. But here's where my brain starts to short circuit a bit. If Allah already knows everything, past, present, future, like, he already knows how this whole cosmic play is going to end, then what does that mean for free will? Do we actually have a choice in any of this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And trust me, you're not alone in wrestling with it. Scholars and theologians have been debating this for centuries. But let me try to explain it this way. Imagine you have a friend who's obsessed with chocolate, like absolutely loves it. You know for a fact that if you offer them a choice between chocolate and, say, a piece of fruit, they're going to pick the chocolate every single time, right?
Okay, I can see that. Chocolate is pretty hard to resist. So you're saying that just because we know the outcome doesn't mean the choice isn't real?
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's like knowing the map versus choosing where to go. Allah might know the ultimate destination, but the journey, the choices we make along the way, those are still up to us. And those choices, those actions, they shape who we become and ultimately determine our fate.
Okay, I can wrap my head around that. So even though there's this divine plan, we still have the agency to make choices. Our free will is real, even if it feels like there's this higher power pulling the strings.
Exactly. And that's why intention is so important in Islam. It's not just about the action itself, but the why behind it. The motivation, the state of our hearts. Remember that story in Surah Al-Qalam, the one about the garden owners who were so obsessed with hoarding their wealth?
Oh yeah, those guys. They thought they could outsmart fate by hiding their harvest from the poor, right?
Exactly. They thought they were being clever, but their intention, their lack of gratitude and generosity, that's what sealed their fate. They forgot that everything we have is a gift, a blessing from Allah. And with those gifts comes responsibility.
Right. It's like you're not just supposed to hoard all the good stuff for yourself. You're supposed to share it, to be grateful for it, to use it to make the world a better place.
Precisely. And that brings us to another really interesting point, the idea that the Quran's message isn't just for a select few, it's for everyone, even those who might not seem like the obvious audience. And we see this beautifully illustrated in Surah Al-Jinn.
Wait, like genies? Those jinn, what do they have to do with any of this?
Well, in this surah, it describes these jinn beings created from fire who overhear the Quran being recited. And instead of dismissing it or rejecting it, they're captivated by it. They recognize the truth in its message and choose to believe.
That's kind of amazing when you think about it. These beings made of fire recognizing the divine truth of the Quran. It's like this message transcends any kind of boundary or preconceived notion.
Exactly. And it highlights this really important point that the potential for faith, for connection, for guidance, it exists for everyone, regardless of who they are, where they come from, or what they've done in the past.
It's a message of hope. Like, no matter how far gone you think you are, there's always a path back, always a chance to find your way to something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely. But let's be real, living a life of faith, of intentionality, of constant remembrance, it's not always easy. We're human. We mess up. We get distracted. We doubt. So how do we navigate those very real struggles?
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it? It's easy to talk about all this in theory, but putting it into practice in our everyday lives, that's a whole other ballgame, especially with all the distractions and temptations swirling around us constantly.
It definitely is. And Juz 29 acknowledges that struggle. In fact, Surah Marish talks about how humankind is inherently created anxious, impatient. We get frustrated when things don't go our way. We forget to be grateful when times are good, and we often hoard our blessings instead of sharing them with others.
It's so true. It's like we're wired for dissatisfaction,
Yeah.
always chasing the next thing, never fully content with what we have in this moment. So how do we break free from that cycle? What's the antidote to this anxiety, this constant striving?
The surah offers a powerful solution prayer. It emphasizes that those who are consistent in their prayers, who make time for that connection with Allah, even amidst the chaos of daily life, they find solace, strength, and a sense of peace that transcends the ups and downs of this world.
It's about shifting our perspective, right? Remembering that this life is just a temporary state, a blink in the grand scheme of eternity.
Exactly. And through prayer, through that consistent connection with the divine, we can tap into a wellspring of peace and resilience that helps us navigate those inevitable challenges and uncertainties that life throws our way.
It's about finding that balance between being present in this world while staying connected to something larger than ourselves, which, let's be honest, takes real effort.
Absolutely. It's a conscious choice we make each and every day. But even the smallest acts of remembrance, of turning our hearts and minds towards Allah, can be incredibly powerful. It's about finding those moments of peace, those reminders of what truly matters, amidst the noise and distractions of daily life. And sometimes, those moments are found in the quietest corners, in the stillness between our breaths.
I love that. Finding the sacred in the ordinary. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the importance of intention, the power of prayer, the constant struggle to stay connected to something bigger than ourselves. It's a lot to process, but it all seems to circle back to this central theme that's woven throughout Juz 29, the absolute sovereignty of Allah.
Exactly. He is the creator, the sustainer, the ultimate judge. And we, as his creation, have a choice to make.
A choice with some pretty eternal consequences at stake. I mean, we're talking paradise or punishment, blissful gardens or eternal fire, no pressure, right?
Right, no pressure.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, Juice 29 lays it out pretty clearly, doesn't it? The choice is ours to make, but the consequences are eternal.
And it's not like the Quran shies away from those stark realities either. I mean, just look at Surah Al-Mursalat.
Oh man, that one's intense.
Talk about a wake-up call.
The imagery is just wild.
It's like those who choose disbelief are being driven towards this horrifying shadow of smoke having 3 columns, no cool shade, and a veiling not against the flame.
I mean, can you imagine that feeling of desperate yearning for even a moment's relief?
Yeah.
But there's none to be found.
And the thing is, even with that level of detail, with the certainty of the day of judgment woven throughout these verses, you still have people who doubt.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really makes you wonder, what would it take? What kind of statement, what ultimate proof would it take to shatter that disbelief?
That's the million-dollar question, right? What creates that barrier, that resistance to faith, even in the face of these powerful warnings?
It's like some questions are just beyond our human comprehension.
I think you're right. And while we might never fully understand the reasons behind individual choices, I do think exploring these texts, wrestling with these questions, it gives us at least a glimpse into the complexity of the human relationship with faith, with doubt, with the vast mysteries that lie beyond our understanding.
It's like holding up a mirror to our own search for meaning, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, as we wrap up this deep dive into Juz 29.
Already. Man, time flies when you're talking about the end of the world.
Right. But I do hope that it sparked a curiosity in you to delve even deeper into these themes, to explore them for yourself, and to come to your own conclusions about the messages within these verses.
Because at the end of the day, it's a personal journey, isn't it?
It is. We all have to find our own path.
So on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the question posed in Surah Al-Mursalat. Then in what statement after it, i.e., the Quran, will they believe?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.